Well, here we go again. What the heck is going on in Blue Valley? That's right, we're here talking about Stargirl Season 3, Episode 5, entitled The Thief. Spoilers are ahead, so if that's not your thing, you have been warned. Let's get into it. So I guess I should start out with my feelings for this episode. Overall, I have been really enjoying this season and the progression of the storyline, all those things. While there are some problems that I have addressed in prior videos, most of those problems have to do with the fact that some of our side characters, specifically the rest of the JSA, the new JSA I should say, those being Rick, Yolanda, and Beth, they've kind of been getting shunted to the side. They haven't been getting much storyline of their own. I am hoping that's going to change as we progress throughout the season, but so far it seems like we're taking most of our time and devoting that to the guest star of Starman, who, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love. He is a fantastic character, but I do feel like to have our main characters being supplanted for the guest star is a little disingenuous, and I feel like it needs to kind of be pushed the other way around and give them more to do and put him on the back burner, at least for a couple of episodes. That being said, here's hoping that changes in the next couple of weeks. Now that I said that, let me go ahead and completely contradict myself in the very next statement. So we finally did get a bit of follow-up with Rick, aka Our Man storyline here. So if you do recall, he did lose his hourglass last season, actually in the season finale, that broke, and he was unable to access his powers. Somehow between seasons, he put that back together in order to regain these powers, but he wasn't entirely successful. His powers have been wildly fluctuating from like 28 minutes to 12 minutes, so he's not even getting anywhere near the full hour that he's supposed to. Now, we are given a bit of insight here by Sylvester, of all people, who did have some insight into how the original Hour Man built this. It must be the limiter that is damaged. So the hourglass has something inside of it that is only allowing the power to remain for 1 hour. Sylvester says there must have been some very good reason this was the case, but if you remove that limiter, chances are you could probably get a full 24 hours of super strength and whatnot out of the hourglass. Obviously, Rick is going to go ahead and try this. There must be a downside. Not entirely sure what that is. Possibly it becomes an addicting property, or it overloads his body to the point of wrecking it or something. I don't know, but I feel like we're going to see what happens in the next few episodes when he decides to go full on in to take that power 100% of the time, even when he's not being a superhero, even in his regular day classes and whatnot. So that'll be interesting to find out. But like I said, that was a very, very small part of this episode, and he really didn't have all that much to do outside of this. But before I get too far, let's go back to where the episode started. So we did get more flashbacks, as have been the case with most of this season, and this time we started out at the death scene of the gambler with Cindy standing over the body. This was approximately a minute or so before we caught up with her the first time. So this is right before the JSA hear the commotion and come over to find out what happened. So we see Cindy standing over the body of the gambler with her shiv blade fully erect, fully tracted? Is that the opposite of detracted? Who's to say? There's certainly no way for me to look that up and figure it out, so I guess it'll be a mystery for us all to never solve together. Anywho, they're clearly trying to set this up to make us believe as much as possible that Cindy is in fact and 100% responsible for the death of the gambler, and I am not buying it, show. Stargirl, knock it off. Cindy is not the one responsible. Stop trying to force that down our throats and give us that misdirect. She will not be the one ultimately who caused the demise of the gambler. I understand you're trying to throw that curveball at us, but I'm not buying it. Knock it off. So she retracts her blade and immediately turns around and notices that the gambler's laptop is active and on the desk in the wrecked remains of the trailer. This is very interesting. If she is not in fact the one who actually destroyed the gambler, murdered him, and wrecked the trailer, then why would whoever did it keep the laptop there and not take any of the evidence or anything, unless there was no ulterior motive here but to silence the gambler and they didn't care about any of this other superfluous stuff? That's very interesting. Are there more mysteries going on than just the death of the gambler? I suppose we'll have to find out shortly. So then we get to the point where the JSA came over originally. Cindy hears them coming, stashes a laptop under the trailer so they don't see it, and when she goes to get away, for some reason, she decides to pick up the gambler's gun, and the mutation in her arm forces her to, I don't know, reflex her hand and pull the trigger, and that shot goes off, alerting the JSA to her standing over the gambler's body. Still don't understand why she was picking up the gun. Maybe we'll explore that later on, but it seems like kind of a stupid move when she was almost in the clear at that point. When we cut back to the present, we catch up with Starman and the young JSA members, Yolanda, Beth, and Rick, and they're all going on a secret mission to the old ISA headquarters. I suppose they figured there might be some information they could locate down there, possibly something left behind, possibly some information on Cindy. Not really sure what they're looking for, but they're hoping to find something that can give them a clue as to what's going on with this whole situation. They don't really end up finding much. We see that Cindy was down there and happened to get away just in time. Sylvester loses his cool once again, flips the hell out, blasts the crap out of the old ISA portrait that used to hang above the mantle in there. Still not entirely sure what's going on with that, but I will touch on it a bit later because I do have another possible theory about what's going on, but more on that at the end of this video. On that note, Sylvester is able to track down another old lair that Dragon King used to use. Apparently there is a whole bunch of these bunkers located about the Midwest, or at least parts of the Midwest. I'm not entirely sure how many there were, but there are quite a few. So he goes to check this out. While I believe we are expected to believe that this place is long deserted, there are live animals on display, which does not seem to indicate that there is any lack of presence. I feel like that could have just been the most wordy way in which I could have described that sentence. There's also a side plot of Jakeem and Mike trying to convince Cindy to team up with them. Since the JSA really isn't taking any of them seriously, they think that maybe they could all team up and put the JSA to shame. That really doesn't work out too much, although Cindy does happen to save them from some bullies, so that's a nice little twist there. The same goes for the Courtney and Cameron love affair situation. It's a good progression of their storyline, but it's not really something that I am too interested in, but it does provide Courtney with that secondary layer of being a little too distracted from her JSA duties, a bit more off her game, letting everyone else kind of fall to the wayside and pick up the slack on their own. And it also does forward the storyline of Cameron because he's got secrets going on here. So he's got secrets being kept from the good guys. He's got secrets being kept from the bad side. At the end of the day, he's going to have to make a decision to go to the light side, go to the dark side, or possibly freak out on everyone and go on his own and become some sort of third tier. So at least they're moving that to a head, and they're moving a lot of things to a head in this episode. So I do think this is kind of the waypoint before things get really off the hook in next episode. There is also a very small subplot involving Beth and her parents, who I guess want to become some sort of like sidekick to her, and eventually she had to come out and tell them, you know what, I want you to stay out of this. You're bothering me, you're distracting me, I need to handle this on my own, just stay out of my business. Well, I guess that was good character development for her. It felt more like they were just trying to give Beth a storyline that wasn't integrated into the ongoing story, unless this whole parents thing comes back later on in the series, in which case I might have to eat my hat. But for the time being, that did feel a little out of place and a bit like padding. We end up ending the episode on Cindy searching the abandoned ISA base that we saw Starman investigating earlier. We never really saw if Starman found anything. We're supposed to believe he didn't. However, I do have a thought on that. While Cindy is investigating this place, however, Yolanda, as Wildcat, is breaking into Cindy's home to investigate her room. And while she's there, she does happen to locate the gambler's hidden laptop that Cindy was clearly keeping secret from our team. So that's obviously leading to some confrontations in the next episode. It just feels like we're finally moving all the pieces into place where everything will come to a head. And most likely everyone's going to misinterpret the fact, put the pieces together wrong, and things are going to come into significant conflict. I still personally think Cindy is on a quest to kind of cure whatever's going on with her, to take care of all the side effects going on with whatever her father programmed into her genetically, but there's clearly some mutation going on with her, and I think overall that is her main quest, to try and stop whatever genetic manipulation is ongoing inside of herself, and that's why she's so desperate to get the gambler's laptop. That's why she's so desperate to find all of these locations her father left research and equipment in, because she needs all of that to help herself, Not necessarily to kill the gambler and hide all sorts of crap. She needs to help herself before she turns into some uncontrollable monster. I think that might be her greatest fear right now. After she ran into Eclipso last season, she might understand just how demonic and evil she could become if she doesn't stop that. And that might be her guiding force right now. At the same time, I still believe Dragon King is alive and very much in some altered form. Now, my original theory and the one I still tend to be going with is that he has all of these alternate genetically modified bodies hidden throughout these locations. Possibly some of them are less human and more bestial. We already know he modified himself to become like half lizard dragon to begin with. So maybe there is a less human, more bestial form in some sort of holding tank that when he died, his consciousness was automatically transferred to. That's kind of what I think might be going on with him. However, based on what we saw in this episode, I think there might also be a Starman connection. Now, I'm not as confident on this. I'm just kind of mulling it over right now, but I do think it would make an interesting reveal if it does turn out to be the case. So we see in this ISA bunker, I guess it was more of a Dragon King bunker, not really an ISA one, but there is this living kind of furry lizard thing. We then see Sylvester look into what is supposedly a mirror, and he's kind of looking at himself like, yeah, I like what I'm seeing here. Something along those lines. There could be a couple meanings here. One, maybe he's just super narcissistic. Two, maybe that wasn't a mirror. Maybe we're supposed to think it was a mirror and he's actually looking through a window into something being kept in a cell. But what I am thinking, what if Dragon King, through his genetic manipulations, is the one who somehow brought Starman back to life, and it has nothing to do with the Cosmic Staff, or at least less to do with the Cosmic Staff than we were led to believe? What if he's the reason that Starman is going through all sorts of these bipolar episodes? What if Dragon King transferred his mind into Sylvester's body, and unbeknownst to Sylvester, there's kind of a warring personality thing going on, and that's why there's all of these differing personalities. Sylvester, who's trying to actually atone for his actions, and Dragon King, who's just kind of a giant dick, who's asserting himself in certain instances. Now, one reason I think this might not really track is because when we saw flashbacks to Sylvester, he was clearly a dick before he died, but clearly not in the same manner he is now. So I don't know if that really tracks, but I do think that would be an interesting reveal if there was more of a connection there, and Sylvester is sort of another experiment of Dragon King, who kind of might be able to turn into the dark side or might have to redeem himself. There might be some war within Starman that results in his death when he has to finally confront what's going on. Anyways, I think that's all I have for this week. What are your thoughts on this show? What do you think about the progress we're making? Are you liking it? Hating it? Is it kind of just meh? Leave all those thoughts as well as a like below. And until next time, keep on shining.